Let me just drop the massive bombshell right out of the gate so we can all hyperventilate together. Tracy actually orchestrated a fake kidnapping of sweet little Phoebe to brutally blackmail Ethan into keeping his mouth shut about Brooklyn. My jaw hit the floor. Are you kidding me right now? I am both terrified and absolutely here for it, but mostly I am screaming at my television screen. We have known for decades that Tracy is a ruthless shark, but staging the abduction of an innocent child to protect her family, that is a whole new terrifying level of dark, twisted soap opera villainy. I am living for the sheer drama of it all, even as my heart breaks. Let us rewind for a second and look at the intense history here. We have known for a minute that Brooklyn has been carrying around this suffocating secret. She was the other driver in that horrific hit-and-run accident involving Jordan. We watched the guilt literally eating her alive, pushing her to the absolute brink of a mental breakdown. But the absolute kicker, somehow Ethan figured it out. Ethan knows exactly what Brooklyn did on that dark road. He became the ultimate wild card. He held the sole key to Brooklyn's freedom, and Tracy, being the ultimate puppet master, realized instantly that if Ethan talked to the cops, Brooklyn was going straight to a prison cell. This woman has the audacity to think she can just play God with everyone's lives. Tracy's working my last nerve right now. Instead of making Brooklyn face the music and stand trial for almost killing Jordan, Tracy decides the most logical solution is to commit a massive felony. She looks at Brooklyn, sees her crumbling, and basically says, "Do not worry, I'll just steal a baby to make our problems disappear." The absolute nerve of Tracy to manipulate her own granddaughter into going along with this sick scheme is staggering. She convinced Brooklyn that Phoebe was the absolute only leverage they had left to force Ethan into permanent silence. Let me paint the vivid picture of this kidnapping scene for you, because it was chillingly executed. Tracy waited like a predator until Ethan was completely off guard, enjoying a sunny afternoon at the local park. One minute he is smiling, having a perfect bonding moment with Phoebe, and the next minute, pure chaos erupts. A perfectly timed distraction, a swift movement, and just like that, Phoebe is gone without a trace. The sheer panic and agonizing desperation radiating from Ethan as he tore through that park, screaming for his little girl, gave me absolute chills. I mean, the emotional devastation written all over his face was incredibly hard to watch. He was losing his mind, and all the while, Tracy was safely tucked away, pulling the wicked strings. And where do you think Tracy decided to hide this innocent child? In the secret basement of her massive mansion. Brooklyn initially tried to fight back against this insanity. She tried to tell Tracy that this was a bridge too far, but Tracy's icy, calculated manipulation completely broke her spirit down to nothing. Brooklyn surrendered to the darkness, becoming fully complicit in a heinous crime that is arguably so much worse than the original hit-and-run accident. The psychological torment Brooklyn is actively experiencing right now is so visceral you can feel it through the screen. She is desperately trapped in a claustrophobic nightmare of her own making, terrified of going to prison but equally horrified by the trauma she is inflicting on Ethan. Wait, I'm getting ahead of myself here. Let me circle back to Ethan, because he did not just sit around his apartment crying. Oh no, he went into full-blown action hero mode, and you will never guess who he teams up with to save the day. Ava. Yes, the one and only Ava. I am losing my mind over this unexpected, iconic, dynamic duo. Ava has been quietly drowning in her own heavy guilt regarding how she handled things with Ethan in their messy past, and she clearly sees this high-stakes rescue mission as her ultimate path to redemption. Ava knows exactly how dark and corrupt the wealthy elite of this town can play, making her the perfect, ruthless ally for a desperate father. Seeing Ava fully channel her inner mob princess energy to help Ethan track down his missing daughter is the elite character growth I desperately needed. Together, Ava and Ethan managed to pull off the absolute impossible. They actually managed to hack directly into Tracy's state-of-the-art, highly encrypted security and financial systems. We are talking edge-of-your-seat, Hollywood-level digital espionage right here in town. They meticulously dig through the digital footprint, following the hidden money trail, and they discover a massive clue. They find out that Tracy did not just keep Phoebe locked in that dark basement forever. She eventually moved the child and hired a private nurse to care for Phoebe at a remote, heavily guarded cabin way out in the dense woods. The exact moment they found that cabin's GPS location flashing on the computer screen, I was literally jumping up and cheering in my living room. Ava and Ethan are officially the ultimate detective dream team, but here is the emotional twist that absolutely shattered my heart into a million pieces. Brooklyn, completely consumed by her agonizing guilt and unable to stomach the sheer cruelty of Tracy's master plan for one more second, decides to commit a dangerous, silent act of rebellion. She secretly sneaks into Ethan's empty apartment and deliberately leaves behind Phoebe's absolute favorite toy right on the table. It was a deliberate, incredibly risky breadcrumb. A silent scream for help from a woman drowning in her own bad choices. Brooklyn desperately wanted Ethan to know that Phoebe was still alive and that she was connected to this nightmare. That tiny toy sitting alone on Ethan's table was arguably the most powerful visual of the entire week. It proved that Brooklyn still has a conscience, even if it is currently buried under family lies. Of course, absolutely nothing gets past the eagle eyes of Tracy. The exact second Tracy realizes that Brooklyn left that toy and blatantly betrayed their twisted pact, the razor-sharp claws come out in full force. Tracy aggressively corners Brooklyn in the mansion and delivers a terrifying ultimatum that is so cold it could freeze a raging fire. She looks Brooklyn dead in the eye and promises to completely and permanently disinherit her. She threatens to strip her of the family name, cut off all the money, and happily leave her to rot in a cold prison cell if she does not continue to flawlessly play her part in this sick production. Tracy is literally holding Brooklyn hostage just as tightly as she is holding Phoebe hostage. It is a terrifying psychological prison, and Tracy is the cruel warden holding every single key. All of this agonizing buildup leads directly to the explosive climax that had me literally holding my breath. Ethan finally reaches that remote, isolated cabin hidden deep in the woods. He fiercely kicks the heavy wooden door open, fully ready to physically tear apart whoever took his precious little girl, and who was standing right there in the middle of the room. Brooklyn? Brooklyn, with thick tears streaming down her pale face, holding Phoebe so tightly and protectively in her shaking arms. The sheer, world-shattering betrayal that instantly washed over Ethan's face. Chills. Absolute chills. He trusted her. He knew her darkest secret, and instead of turning her into the cops, he showed her mercy, and in return, he got his daughter stolen. The heavy emotional tension in that tiny cabin was so incredibly thick you could easily cut it with a knife. Understand the profound depth of Ethan's pain and fury in this exact frozen moment. He is looking dead at a woman he has known, someone he has warmly interacted with, and suddenly realizing she is a literal monster, or at least she is perfectly playing the role of one for her grandmother. Ethan's entire universe has been violently turned upside down and smashed to pieces. He is frantically trying to process how Brooklyn could possibly sink this incredibly low, while Brooklyn is hysterically sobbing, desperately trying to explain that she never wanted any of this, that Tracy violently forced her hand. But how on earth do you ever forgive someone who actively held your innocent child captive? You simply do not. Ethan's raging fury is a living, breathing thing in that room, and I am entirely here for his righteous wrath. Okay, let me get to the bold predictions, because my caffeinated brain is furiously spinning with all the wild possibilities of where this goes next. You heard it here first. I'm calling it right now. Brooklyn is going to completely snap under the pressure, gently hand Phoebe back into Ethan's arms, and march straight down to the police station to turn herself in for the hit and run on Jordan. She is going to completely blow up Tracy's spot, throwing her right under the bus, and Tracy is going to face massive kidnapping charges. And what about Chase? When Chase finally finds out that Brooklyn not only ran over Jordan but also actively participated in kidnapping a toddler, that relationship is entirely done. Over